Oh, hello. We're live. Okay, finally, after a very long time, welcome to Popcast on the Rocks. This is a special, bonus episode. It's March 25th, 2020. Um, Andrea, you're holding very still.
Yes, it's a new thing I'm doing. It's Zen meditation in the time of coronavirus.
Oh, wow. It's pretty
No,
good.
no, sadly, I'm the holdup on this, midweek surprise. I'm having tech issues, which I do kind of think can be attributed to coronavirus because I think, our broadband internet systems are being taxed to their limit right now with everybody staying at home. And now, obviously, Minnesota has a shelter in place order as of today, so I think, there's extra limited activity outside, so
Mhm. I think it
yeah, so
doesn't
I'm
go into effect right away, but
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I think it goes into effect on Friday, but I'm pretty sure people are sort of
yeah,
more hearing the shelter in place and just freaking out and staying at home, but
yep.
you've got time, people out there.
Well, I've got your image there replaced, and I've got a slideshow running of you right here on an iPad, so it still feels like I'm not just talking to the ether.
Not talking
Um,
to the void. I'm almost there with
yeah,
you, John.
yeah. So we didn't know what to call this. Spoiler cast for a review of Westworld or like hump day update. You guys let us know what you want. Right now, this one's just gonna go live to Twitch right now, and then
Mhm.
we'll put it up on YouTube. But
Yep.
we're cover a little bit of what's happened this week so far, and then break down the latest episode of Westworld. So it's your in between episode before our regular one on Saturday.
That's right, you can't get enough of us, so we're
Yep,
here. We're here for you.
yep. Well, how has your week been thus far? Putting aside tonight's
Yeah, you can't
stuff.
see me, but, I've got an entire tumbler full of whiskey that's
Yeah,
preparing to be downed, so that's how
yeah,
tonight is going.
yeah.
Other than that, the rest of the week has been just fine.
Okay.
Um, yeah, just kicking back, working from home, watching some shows. Chris and I are finishing up, we're still plowing through Supernatural, but, that's, like, endless,
Yeah,
so
that's a lifetime commitment.
exactly. So we're only in season 9 of Supernatural, but we're plowing through Miracle Workers, on TBS, which is the show with Steve Buscemi and Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, how is that?
It is excellent.
Okay.
So we're in season 2, and so season 1 and season 2 have the same cast, but they're completely different
Mhm.
premises. So the first season, Steve Buscemi is God, and Daniel Radcliffe works as an angel. And basically, Steve Buscemi as God is like kind of an asshole and like doesn't really give a crap about like anything. And he's like, "Oh, why do I have all this responsibility? Like, Earth is so taxing. Why don't I just like blow it up sometime?" And Daniel Radcliffe and all the other angels are like, "No, no, 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 no! Like, give it a shot. Like, hold off. We'll fix stuff." So that's like sort of the premise of the first season, and then this season is called Dark Ages, and it's sort of like this medieval story where Daniel Radcliffe is the son of like this bloodthirsty king, but he's not bloodthirsty. He's kind of this like adorable little doofus who like doesn't know a whole lot about life. And Steve Buscemi is one of like the lowest common folk of the kingdom. So
Mm,
in this premise, like your last name describes what you do for a living, and so Steve Buscemi's character's name is Edward Shit Shoveler. So
nice.
that's literally what he does. And he has, of course, a beautiful daughter though that like Daniel Radcliffe's kind of fallen in love with and learning to, learning a little bit more about the common folk, but it's really fun. It's really cute, and we're almost through the entire season, so highly recommend it. I thought I
Nice.
was going to have a problem like seeing Daniel Radcliffe as anything other than Harry Potter,
Sure.
but he does a fabulous job. So I totally buy him in this, and he's got great comedic timing. So props to Daniel Radcliffe for moving beyond.
Awesome. So yeah,
So
we started recording that season 2. Uh,
yeah, yeah. Definitely
Just
watch it. It's
the
very
funny.
funny.
Okay, cool. That's great.
How about you? How's
Um,
your week been?
yeah, it's been pretty good as well. Took our dog to the dog park. Took Dobby to the dog park.
Oh,
So
cute.
you run around a little bit when it was nice out, and
Were there any other dogs and or people there?
yeah, there was at least 7 dogs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah.
Was Dobby comfortable with all of them? Were they
Well,
larger,
anytime
smaller?
so there's a big dog section, a small dog section. Anytime the
Okay.
big dogs would come, and then he would just go nuts. He's got to be like, "Look how tough I am! Look out!" You know.
He is a
Or-
swole little bro, so he's
Yeah.
gotta show off those arms.
So, but yeah, we had to take him more, get him more used to it. But
Sure.
he did okay. So yeah, and otherwise, been playing more Animal Crossing.
Yes, I've seen.
Yeah. So I
Still
was
enjoying.
yeah, I guess I'll like use that to go into you should follow us on social media.
Yes, please.
Uh we're on Facebook, which you run, we're on Twitter.
Mhm.
I post I didn't yesterday actually, but I usually post and tag Popcast on the Rocks for some Animal Crossing screenshots and stuff.
That's right, I was missing
S-
them.
Super entertaining
I
stuff
was having to
there, but
search you out for those instead of just going to our feed.
yeah. So I got to get better on that, but yeah, follow us there. You should, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but everybody does, and I should mention it all the time actually. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts in particular if you can. That will help other people find the show.
Mhm.
Like, comment, share the stuff we have on YouTube and Twitch, that kind of thing. Leave us comments, all that sorts of stuff.
Yes,
So
we do check it regularly, so we will respond.
yeah, yep. So yeah, otherwise news updates for this week. I mean, we're only how many days been? It's been 4 days or whatever since our last episode, but
I know. But okay, so I do have news, and I only have one piece of news, but it's literally the most important news I could have because I've been waiting for this for over 3 years.
okay.
This is like epically long. This is like George R. R. Martin's Dance of
So
Dragons long.
most of your life you've been
Yes.
waiting. Okay.
um, so it was announced today, accompanied by the release of like a really cool trailer, which I love. I sent the link in our notes, but everybody should go check this out on YouTube. So if anybody is aware of a fabulous series by Jim Butcher, it's called The Dresden Files, and they're about 16 books in to a planned 25 book series. It's a sci-fi, fantasy, a little bit adventure series about a wizard named Harry Dresden who lives in Chicago. I know. I paused between Harry. I was
Yeah.
like, nope, it's Dresden, not Potter. Um, but it's a fantastic series that, like I said, has about 16 books in. Um, but the past 3 years, we've been waiting for Jim Butcher to drop the 17th book in the series called Peace Talks, and we've all been kind of wondering why it's been taking him so long, because he sort of teased it maybe a year and a half ago that it was dropping, and he even released the first chapter to, kind of get the excitement back up, and we've all been waiting and waiting and wondering what the hell's been going on. But they just announced today that the reason it's been taking so long is because the book got so long that he's now turning it into 2 books.
Oh,
Yes. So Peace Talks is still scheduled to drop this year, 2020, July 14th, but now the 18th book in the series, which I believe, what did I say it's called?
Battleground.
Battleground, thank you. Yeah, so that is gonna be then dropping also this year in September, on September 29th. So I am so, so pumped for that because If you're a fan of the books, like, Harry's sort of at this, like, big crossroads. It's not as dramatic as, like, George R. R. Martin leaving us hanging on Jon Snow's possible death. It's not, like, quite that dramatic, but it's almost that dramatic. So, fans of the series have been waiting for this for 3 years now, like I said, and I'm excited that we're getting 2 books basically in 1 year now. And I half forgive him for delaying, but also, like, I've been waiting for this for a really long time, so hurry your
Okay.
ass up, buddy. But yeah, the other kind of fun news with that, like I said, there's a trailer that dropped with it that, like, has actual actors, like, acting out the premise of the book, which I thought was really fun.
Oh.
Um,
Hmm.
they also announced that Dresden will be getting a TV series, which is
Hmm.
fantastic because they
Hmm.
tried this, I wanna say, maybe 5 or 6 years ago on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it
Okay.
was terrible. It was
Okay.
so, so bad, words cannot even describe. The guy they asked to play Harry doesn't look anything like the covers of the books, so that was or like how he's described in the books, so that was a problem.
Right.
Um so in this world, Harry Dresden carries a wizard staff instead of a wizard wand. But for some inexplicable reason, in this TV series, they had his staff be a hockey stick. So I'm not sure
Okay.
where that came from. The
Hmm.
main female character in the books is like a short, petite, muscular blonde. In the TV series, she was like a tall, thin, wispy brunette.
Okay.
Harry's sidekick is a talking skull in the books. In the TV show, he was like a person.
Okay.
So, like, everything about that TV series was terrible, and it got critically panned, and everybody was really mad.
Hmm.
So I'm excited that they're giving it a second chance now that, like, the second half of the book series is ramping up, and I really hope that this is the chance we have to do it justice because it's
S
really an excellent, excellent book series.
Who's making the show? Like, what network is gonna be on or a streaming service?
I wanna say it's still sci-fi. So,
Okay,
I'm
that's
hoping that
interesting.
they're kind of trying to redeem themselves with this because they got such terrible feedback, but I will double check that.
Yeah, that's really interesting that they're, doing that on the same network.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see. New Dresden. Oh, Fox 21 Television Studios
Okay.
has got it.
So are they doing their own, um is Fox doing their own streaming service?
Not that I'm aware of.
Or is that under because, they had their deal with hmm, I just wonder where it's gonna show up, is
Oh,
sci-fi
yeah, it's, let me see. Dresden Files returns to TV. Yeah, Fox 21 is developing it, but they keep saying, like, they're maybe gonna put it back on Sci-Fi, but I don't know for certain, I guess.
okay, okay.
So,
Well, that's fine,
yeah.
it's I mean, it pretty
I'm
accessible
happy
that
for
way.
whoever is gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sci-fi is interesting, to me,
Mhm.
I credit, and I think way early in one of the episodes talked about this, where I credit Battlestar Galactica, the remake on Sci-Fi
Oh,
Channel,
yeah,
as being one
absolutely.
of the early shows to really start drawing some at least critical attention to television as
Mhm.
being more than it was. And so, but since then, I think they've kind of languished other than The Expanse. I think The
Oh,
Expanse is
sure.
theirs, and I've heard that's good. So maybe they'll have
Yeah,
another good show in this. So
I hope so, because honestly, their first go round was quite awful. Um,
what's the setting for this? I know nothing about this property. What's the
Oh gosh.
I mean, is it I mean, the idea is it,
It's modern
modern
day
times?
Chicago. Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
alright,
Yes. So yeah, no, it's modern day Chicago, and Butcher uses pretty significant like landmarks. It's clear he's done his research, which is the other thing I appreciate. He uses like significant landmarks that I think even if you hasn't haven't visited Chicago, you would know. And then he sort of takes some elements of the existing Chicago and then like adds like a mystical layer to them, like places you wouldn't necessarily know existed that are far off the beaten path that he's now like
okay,
transformed into like mystical hubs.
sure.
Um
It's
so that
kinda
it's
like
not.
Harry Potter where you're
Yeah,
I mean, it's a society behind a society or whatever,
exactly.
you don't
Exactly.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's a little more accessible if you're obviously in America and have either visited Chicago or know anything about the city. I mean, I'd obviously, if you visited, you know a little bit more, but if you don't, you can still like get it in your head.
You said that a little bit like America.
America, I know.
America.
Oh man, whiskey's hitting me already.
Yeah,
It's a long day.
your pint of whiskey, yeah.
But
Um,
yes, I am saddened for you that you have not read it. You must. Like seriously, you must. You must.
interesting.
Uh, all of our
Hmm,
most of our friend group, I'm gonna say, has read it.
okay.
Chris actually, it's like the one book series I've gotten him to like lastingly read. Phil absolutely loves it. Dana loves it. Marty loves it. Like
Okay. Hmm.
solid high ratings from all of us.
I'll have to think about that. You probably can't see it. My stack of books back here, that's 2
Ooh,
level I mean,
what do
this
you got?
here is 2 levels deep, and so I'm not making a lot of progress, and the book I'm actually reading right now is in my bedroom, so it's a lot, but there's a few comic books in there, otherwise most of it's pretty heavy. So I guess
Okay.
having a science fiction sort of thing would be good to have.
They're they're quick reads. You kind of have to get over the first one. It's like his maiden voyage and he, does a lot of world building. Um, but then once you get into it, like they're really quick, like fast paced,
Sure.
like
Yep.
it's like one of those like worlds that sucks you in and like you just like fly through the book. They're not terribly long either, usually around like 300 pages.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I gotta put down the video game controller once in a while and read a few more books.
Come on, John, get cultured.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. We should probably get on to another sci-fi thing, which is kind of the
Yes,
reason for this episode. Um,
absolutely.
so we want to talk about this upcoming Saturday, all about Star Wars. We mentioned that in the last full episode, so we're making room here, and we don't want to not bring up Westworld,
Right,
season 3, episode 2. So that's
right.
the point here. Um, Aired on Sunday.
Mhm.
What did you think?
Um, so I have mixed thoughts about this episode. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't love it as much as I loved the pilot. Um,
Okay.
I liked again that we were spending time in one character's world and really just like taking our time kind of understanding where they were.
Mhm.
Um, but I just felt it wasn't as well executed as the pilot.
Okay.
Um, so I liked. I mean, obviously, like in the last few minutes of the first episode, we got a glimpse of Maeve and knew that she
Mhm.
was alive and possibly in another park. And then this episode, of course, confirmed that, even if it wasn't quite in the way that we thought she was, as is revealed by the end of the episode. But yes, so Maeve is in another Westworld park, War World, um, which I enjoyed sort of, I guess the idea of it, like the way it was presented, like it kind of opened up and it was this fun, like sexy spy world that she, and then obviously as we learn in just like, the next 5 or 10 minutes, Hector were
Mhm.
in. And it was fun to kind of go through this like, Bond-esque chase sequence and like this escape that they're trying to make, and it was all very like fun, but it quickly turns obviously into heartbreak as Maeve realizes Hector doesn't know her.
Yep.
And she realizes, she's back in the game. Um and that was sort of fun, but I don't know, I just didn't feel quite as invested in what was going on in the second episode. I didn't feel like
Mm.
we were moving forward quickly enough, I guess.
Okay. I
So how
I
about
kinda
you?
had yeah, I kinda had the opposite reaction. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I really enjoyed the first episode, but it's like I still don't know where this is gonna go.
Sure.
And I mean, understandably, but in this one, yeah, it was another focus. I've always liked Maeve. I think she's
Yes.
a strong character, and I like Bernard a lot as well. So really,
Mhm.
it's on those two. And I loved the way that she came to the realization that she was being tested, she was
Mhm.
being played. And I really liked how they brought us through those steps. And at first,
Mhm.
like sometimes things can seem gimmicky, like, oh, okay, you're not in the real world now, and then you get the excuse to do crazy stuff or something. But I love that she was trying to overload the system and trying to break it
Yeah.
down and break the rules. And she's so used to that now. She's like a virus in any machine. She's just gonna try to weasel her way past security. And I thought it was
Mhm.
really cool implementation of the way something digital can manifest and make real damage occur.
Sure.
Where her thing is that she's able to take over control of another automated machine to
Mhm.
steal her brain essentially and try to make a run for it. I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked that part. I guess I enjoyed probably the second half of the episode more than I enjoyed the first half, I guess, is sort
Yeah.
of where I'm headed. You're right, I did enjoy that sequence, I did enjoy her figuring out, that she is being played. I thought it was pretty heartbreaking, that Lee was unfortunately now a
Just another
replicated
program.
host. Yeah,
Yeah. Which
that
yep.
sucked because I was really excited to see him alive, and then to see him not was just like, "Oh, this is so cheap." Like, I wish he just would have stayed dead then. Um
See, I like that because when they brought him back, I'm like, okay, so no one died from before. You know, everyone lived, no consequences to the first two seasons, the last
Right.
season or whatever. So when he was actually still dead, I thought, okay, that's nice. He is a vessel in which they're trying to pry information out of Maeve.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a clever twist that I didn't see coming. Um,
Yeah. I guess I didn't see it coming, but Maeve sure did.
yeah.
So it seemed like a really dumb mistake to make to sort of like have him be this like very convenient character that pops back up for her, and she's like, "Oh, we're reunited and it's so great." And she's just like, "No.
Mhm.
This is very obvious of you, like shame, shame."
Yeah, I like how you pointed that out. It means she realized they're reusing code,
Yep.
reusing things before, and um, I think what made me so happy about it was that I thought the way they set it up is okay. She's back in the park. There's these dorks still here. Of
Yep.
course, the one is going to turn you in. Like this whole thing, we're doing this again,
Yep.
and then it wasn't that at all. It was a whole
Yes.
Matrix situation where
Yes.
I really liked that setup, structure.
Yes, I did too. Yeah, like sort of letting her kind of escape and be in a world within a world was very cool. Um, but it was, I felt like when she got to that library, that like sort of archive where, Dolores and
Yep.
Bernard had been, that felt like This is my first indication that something is off here because I just
Sure.
don't feel like she could just like magically get there. It was so easy. And that
Mhm.
was sort of my first clue, even though I didn't recognize that, like, you know, I think they call them like cores or sometimes pearls
Yeah.
of a host. I didn't recognize that like she would be in that sort of like storage kind of capacity that it almost looked like she was in by the end of the episode when that service droid steals her core.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't quite get to, she's embedded in a reality within a reality. But it did feel like this is all very easy. Like everything felt very easy for a while. And I was like, I don't
Yep.
like this.
Yeah, and that's why cuz it was a bunch of setups of disappointment and then surprise.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when it starts, it's like, okay, so they put you again in another world, another
Yes.
park, and then okay, now you're gonna have to go through the same process again of trying to
Right.
break your loop here and get out and
Mhm.
stuff. So, but then I was surprised, and that's not the case. And then,
Right.
with the whole thing, like, okay, so now she's aware of the other guy being fake. So what does that mean? And
Right.
again, I was set up like, okay, he's back, but then he's not. And so each time where I was disappointed at first, they won me over by a
Mhm.
delightful surprise that I didn't see coming.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, there were elements that I quite enjoyed, about her story. I did the one thing that I did like, was that Maeve didn't seem to have that sort of special control anymore over other hosts.
Hmm.
When she was in Warworld and she was basically kind of doing, "These aren't the droids you're looking for,"
Hmm.
and the guy was just like, "What are you talking about?" I kind of
Yep.
enjoyed that.
Yep.
Um and I'm interested to see if, she still has that sort of like overriding control now that she's like out of all of that
Mm.
and in the real world and, could maybe reach out to another host and do that sort of stuff. But that was kind of the part that I really enjoyed, like I said, because I felt like some of the other stuff was a little easy for her to navigate. It wasn't easy
Mhm.
for me as the viewer to guess, but it felt like easy for her to get through in the show. So I was just kind of like, I wish stuff was a little harder. So
So what'd you think of the cameo?
it was pretty great. Yeah, so the cameo, obviously Weiss and Benioff from Game of Thrones made an appearance as part of like what people are assuming is another park inside Westworld, like Game of Thrones park, which I thought was
Westeros
pretty
world, yeah.
great.
Mhm.
Yes. Westworld's Westeros world.
Yep.
Um,
Uh,
it was
I
kind of fun. It
yeah,
was cute. It wasn't long, which I appreciated. We didn't
yeah.
try to like do something with it. It was just like, "Hey, like here we are and here's
Yeah.
our dragon."
It was cool, but in the same time, it just brought up bitter feelings. I'm like,
Oh, for
"Don't you put them
sure.
in charge of the park?" If you're gonna have the park, you keep these guys far away. They'll,
Absolutely.
it'll be around for a few years, they'll get bored of it, and then they're just gonna hand it out, they just phone it in, so
Right,
you
exactly.
keep them away.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cute cameo and it was a cute like fourth wall break and like, "Hey, here's our other HBO thing that we
Mhm.
do," and like, we're hoping you all love it because everybody's obviously still angry at us for the way that Game of Thrones ended. So, I mean, it was like a good nod, and a cute thing to like throw in there. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad it didn't take up that much time.
So, what did you think how would you feel to be back in actual Westworld? This episode we got really actually back there
You
via
mean with
Bernard.
Bernard? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I I thought it was pretty interesting. Um, you know, Bernard obviously would be one of the characters least happy to go back to Westworld, but I know he recognized it as necessary in this conflict that he's having with Dolores, even though they obviously haven't met since he left. Um, so it was interesting to see him go back. It was interesting to see him go into, the Bernard storage locker, see all those versions of himself, and then, to discover, surprise, surprise, here's head of security Stubbs, Ashley Stubbs, and he is a host. That was
Mhm.
something I did not see coming for sure.
Yeah. No, me neither. Yeah.
So I kind of liked that because I enjoyed his character. So I'm
Mhm.
glad that, we didn't see the end of him. Um
Yep.
I'm okay with him being a host. Like I wasn't, disappointed by that discovery at all. I'm a little Speaking of this episode and things that I find that characters are getting too easily, I was a little annoyed how Bernard was able to just sort of like commandeer Stubbs.
Mm.
And that Stubbs was like, well, this was one of my directives is to help you. And then Bernard takes it one step further and like makes it his core directive to
Mhm.
protect him at all costs. And
Yep.
I thought it was kind of fun for Stubbs to like snap back and be like, you could have just asked for my help. I would have done it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like, yeah, like maybe sometimes we don't need to take the shortcut and we don't need to like, use technology like that. You could just reach out.
That's part of how they're I mean, that's part of the odd dynamic that someone
Mhm.
like Bernard has where
Right.
they've spent their known existence as a human,
Mhm.
so they're used to treating these things as things and,
Mhm.
you do what I say kind of stuff. And, maybe it's got to change a little bit given your identity. And it's a little,
Right.
you know, so yeah, I can see how you would do that because, uh, spoilers for Battlestar Galactica, but there's lots of Cylons and a lot of them don't know they're Cylons.
Right.
And so some of them don't just become part of the Cylon side because they
Mhm.
realize they are now because they've known, fought for, and lived as a human. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to sort of watch Bernard's motives and watch his evolution as a character. Um
Hmm.
Because he's still he clearly has adapted to some parts of himself as a host, with that remote that he's got going on and the
Yep.
questioning of himself, but in other ways, he hasn't adapted, like in this episode where he just, like, reprograms Stubbs
Yep.
without thinking about it. So,
So
that'll be interesting to watch.
did you get anything out of his little memory travel back thing? Like, if there was any issue I had with the episode, it's probably that bit, just because it's not the way
Yeah.
computers think necessarily. But I mean, that he was reliving kind of these memories and piecing together stuff that Dolores had done and stuff, trying to
Mhm.
unwind what had happened. Did you take anything away from that meaningful?
Um, I don't know that I especially did.
Hmm.
Um Other than like you said, I thought it was odd that this is the way that this was happening.
Hmm.
That sort of like memory rewind that was happening.
I mean,
Um,
it's for our benefit, but,
right,
like, to
right.
me, it'd be more instantaneous that, "Oh, I know now what has happened to me," you know?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that took me out of the episode, I think, a little bit, or out of, the sequence that was happening. But I mean, sometimes I think you have to sacrifice finesse for function, and I think that was just a moment where the showrunners had to, like, have us be there.
Mhm. I was trying to, like, pay close attention and see if I could figure anything out from it,
Mhm.
but nothing stuck,
Yeah.
with really what, you know, clearly, Dolores has been thinking ahead and making lots of moves.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think of, like, where the show seems to be going? The idea is Dolores is she wants full freedom and autonomy, and
Right.
humans are, if they know what she is going to resist that. So
Right.
she's going to get rid of them or enslave them or something. And Bernard is more, what's Bernard's mission other than like stop her from wiping out humanity or something? Like, where do you see this going? I struggle to see how this, where this ends.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree, because it seems that everybody this season has one goal, and there's no side goals. Dolores, like you said, has like this mission to either destroy, enslave, cripples in some way the human
Hmm.
race so that she can exist in the real world. And Bernard is like, okay, well, my goal is to stop her because she brought me back and she told me that, she needed me to balance her out. So I'm going to do that. And then now, kind of going back full circle to Maeve, she also is now in the real world, which I thought was kind of a cool setup to like bring her here. Um, and is also being courted by a newer character to also stop Dolores and also stop her in this sort of
Right.
like takedown of humanity. And obviously, we don't know which way she's going to go. If she's going to agree, if she's going to disagree, if she's going to agree, but maybe have another agenda in mind. But you know, it's like
Hmm.
if she doesn't have anything else to do and her only mission is to stop Dolores, like everybody has this very singular focus this season, and
Hmm.
I don't know how that could grow beyond then.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my worry, like I really enjoy this episode. It
Mhm,
really brought me back to what Westworld feels like to me with the mystery and the being trippy and then
mhm,
answering my questions actually too, all within the same episode. But I'm just and I have relative confidence they have a good plan, but
mhm.
I'm having trouble seeing how this is gonna all pan out. Like, to me, this
Yes.
feels really big. Like,
Yes.
are we? Because the show will feel very different if we get into like human versus machine wars, or
Right,
something,
right.
So it's got to stay more personal than that somehow,
Yeah.
but still
Well,
have
and it
something
and it
meaningful happen.
right, and it can't tread too familiar ground. I
Hmm.
mean, we can't have like a humans machines, Terminator style kind of
Hmm.
war, you know what I mean? Like you have to do something different with it. Otherwise, what's the point? Um, and I think I'm hoping, I guess, that what we find from this season is maybe who was setting Maeve up, if it's not, the new character that we've met, Vincent Kartheiser. No, not Vincent Kartheiser, Vincent Castle, excuse me. Um,
You
if
think
it's
there's a
not
question about that? You
well, if
think
it's
it's uncertain?
I think it's uncertain, um, or maybe, it's uncertain that it's him alone
Okay.
who's, kind of talking to Maeve because he wants her to stop Dolores, or at least that's what he's told her at the end of the episode,
Hmm.
that he'd like her help in that. But who was ever setting up Maeve while she was in War World and then was thinking that she was in the Mesa, back in the control room and back in the archive and back in the library with Lee Sizemore. They wanted to somehow access that, I don't know, I can't remember what they called it, but, where all the
The
hosts sort of
forge.
ended up the forge, yeah, where the hosts ended up and they were in this sort of like, paradise loop other
Hmm.
world that their minds were all in. So somebody wanted to gain access to that, and they were trying to use Maeve to do it. So I don't know if it's this new character. I don't know if it's another character. I don't know exactly if the point of that was simply just to recover host minds, or if there's something else that they wanted to do with that. You know, that to
Yeah.
me would be an interesting
Mm.
thing to find out or explore because at least it would be something more than just like setting up Dolores wants humanity slaughtered and Bernard and Maeve don't.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think of it as he wanted access to the forge more than he wanted to know what does Maeve know. And like, had she thinking she had been there with Dolores and had helped Dolores to open that access point for,
Right.
the hosts of Westworld and stuff like that. So more of like, tell me what you know, then we need to get into this. But
Sure.
maybe, I mean, I can see that. I mean, obviously, it'd be valuable to get into there, I'm sure,
Right.
if nothing else, it'd have a whole nother, but
Yeah,
okay, interesting.
it's interesting to think if it's, you know, just a test of if Maeve knows how Dolores's mind works, or if it, like I said, is we want to
Hmm.
get into the forge and maybe recover the hosts or see if you can access the forge, see if anybody can access the forge, what's
Yeah.
going on there.
Hmm. Okay. Huh. Well, I know it's early, but do you have any sort of particular way that you want to see this season go or end up? I mean, like man versus machine, these characters in play, like,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's several things that I think I'd like to explore, among them being, what Dolores, and Caleb's relationship is going to be and if that's going to
mhm,
change her. Because obviously the trailer for the next episode sets up that they're going to be pretty close. And Dolores is gonna be revealing, if not all of her thoughts, some of her thoughts to Caleb
right.
about starting a revolution among the human race.
Mhm.
Um, so it'll be interesting, I think, to see what relationship develops there and how that maybe influences Dolores's thinking. Um, and then of course what Maeve decides,
Yeah.
she doesn't have to decide anything.
Mhm.
She doesn't have to take part in any sort of side of the conflict. Um,
But
but
you mean
will
they
she
put her in a body, they put her in her
right,
body
right,
that's, or a copy of that
right.
she's familiar with, but they have control of that body. That's
Clearly.
always the catch 22 or whatever of, machines being put in a
Mhm.
body. They talk about in Ghost in the Shell, like, "Hey, you're government property. Your body
Right.
belongs to us, you don't get to make these decisions because we'll just take your body away or take your vessel away." And we see at the end, she tries to stab him and he turns her off, basically freezes
Mhm.
her in place. So,
Yeah, and I think that'll be interesting to explore, but I think they're going to have to figure out what motivates Maeve other than a body because so much of her motivation has been her daughter
right.
from Westworld. Like, she even
Mhm.
had an opportunity to escape Westworld and go into the real world, and she rejected it because she wanted to go back for her daughter. So
Mhm.
it's like, what do you have to offer her? I mean, maybe she's excited about being in the real world now that she's in it, but maybe she isn't. And, if all you have to offer is control of her body, I don't know that Maeve is gonna just accept that, like, she wants that, you know?
Yeah, I think Maeve she's just about the truth. She wants the
Mhm.
truth. The daughter stuff is interesting because you default to thinking, well, but your daughter's not real. She's not really your daughter,
Right.
but she's as real as you are. You know,
Exactly.
so and that relationship was as real as anything she's known. So,
Right. So yeah, so if the human race can't offer her access to the forge then, and can't offer her access to seeing her daughter again, what's
if it's
what's really
Dolores can,
right. Like what
so
really motivates Maeve, if they can't. I mean, I wonder partly if that was part of their tests of Maeve and seeing if she could get into the forge was maybe trying to gain access to the mind of her daughter and using that as leverage, and then they
mhm,
couldn't do it.
yep,
Um, so if you can't do it, then,
yeah,
what is Maeve's motivation? Like, what are you gonna get to motivate her?
yeah.
So
Well, I'm excited to see what happens.
I agree. I agree.
Well, See, now we're over an hour. Aren't you happy that we we did this? Because everyone listening right now, we're this Saturday, it's this big Star Wars
That's
extravaganza special.
right.
It's all Star Wars all the time, the whole thing. Could
Have
probably
you
go
s
on for hours.
have you seen Rise of Skywalker?
No, I'm gonna watch
Or
it
are
though
you
this
s
week.
Okay, alright.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew you were going to, but I just was wondering if, you'd already done
I
so or if it was still in the
trying to think
works.
like if I need to pick up a drinking game for it,
Ooh.
or I mean, I'm not gonna enjoy that movie. Like I'm telling you right now, I'm going in with a bias outlook. Okay. So I
That's fine.
don't expect an unbiased, fair review or anything from me. It won't be. Um,
It doesn't make it easy to give one, unfortunately. I mean, the movie's just not, it doesn't lend itself to an unbiased
I could
review.
launch into it right now, and I'm not gonna. I mean, the restraint I have to show on a weekly basis about Star Wars, and this week I get to let go. I just get
You
to
do, you
all my
do.
thoughts. So then when we're going forward and I wanna go off on a tangent about Star Wars, I can say just refer to episode 11,
That's right.
and you'll see all the thoughts. Okay.
Well, I hope you do find a drinking game for it, otherwise we can invent a drinking game to have for our podcast on Saturday,
Oh, man.
so you can make it through even talking about it.
Yeah, that's
And
dangerous.
I did see some Star Wars related news this week that I do wanna talk about, but I will save it for
Okay.
our
Yeah,
Saturday
perfect.
episode.
Perfect. Okay. Well, this episode is only coming out in on Twitch right now, and I'll put it on YouTube. I want to remind everybody again to rate and review us, particularly on Apple Podcasts. It helps us be discovered. Like
Yes,
and
please.
share us on YouTube and Twitch. Follow our social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter. Um, and that's about it. Otherwise, like, come see us on Saturday if you like Star Wars and you're ready to. Are you gonna be kind of positive about Star Wars? Can I? Can
Like,
you?
overall?
Yeah.
Or you mean about Rise of Skywalker? Those are
Like,
very different things in my mind.
okay. All right.
I mean,
Well, I don't.
I enjoy Star Wars, but I can't say that I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. There were moments, as I think any movie has moments. I mean,
Mhm.
even about some of the worst movies I've ever
Yeah.
seen have had
Yeah.
moments, but I can't promise, like, a positive counterpoint to your review of Rise of
Okay.
Skywalker.
Yeah. I just have such an. It's just so negative of late. So if you're more positive, that'd be good for our audience.
I will try. Like I said, I think you can find positive moments in any movie, and I think
Yes.
you might find things that you're like, "Oh, okay." But that doesn't mean, like, we need to, like, you know, give it a
Yeah.
thumbs up rating or
Right.
5 stars.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody cross your fingers that we can get Andrea in video form next or this upcoming Saturday.
That's right, I miss you.
That would be great. And otherwise, thanks for joining us this Wednesday evening.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.